Hello, this is Dave from Sprues and Brews with another video for you today, and in this video we're going to be checking out one of the latest battle tomes for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. It is of course the Skaven. So before we get stuck into this book, Jay has reviewed the Sylvaneth Battletome, which is out or up for pre-order at the same time as this one. That can be found over on spruesandbrews.com. There'll also be a link in the podcast notes as well. But for the purpose of this video, we're just going to be checking out the Skaven book. So I've been really looking forward to this because I'm a big Skaven fan. I'm currently painting up an army of them, so yeah, looking forward to ideally taking them on a path to glory and maybe play some match play games with them as well. So yeah, very excited to pick up this book. This is also the first Battletome that I reviewed for the site as well, which is very exciting. So I want to take a quick run through this book, see what kind of things have changed, what options we've got. And yeah, see overall what the book's like. If you prefer to read this review, that is also available on spruesandbrews.com, and again, the links are in the episode notes. So, here we are. First things first, that is the same cover as the last Battletome, which, I don't know, personally, I'm a bit disappointed. I'd like to see a different cover. You never see repeating covers on 40k codexes, yet we've seen this a couple of times for Battletomes. In fact, the Sylvaneth one, which is also for pre-order today, has got the same cover as the previous one, so a little bit disappointing. I mean, it is a very cool piece of artwork, but I would have liked to have seen a different cover. But there you go, that's quite a minor point, but I thought it was worth mentioning. So we're going to get stuck into this book. Got the contents there. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the lore in here. If you're planning on picking up the book, you're going to want to read all this lore for yourself, maybe with a brew. But there's lots of cool stuff in here, lots of cool artwork. The lore takes you from the beginning of the Skaven in the Mortal Realms to current times, what they're up to. It really gives you a flavour of the army. If you've never played Skaven before, if you've never really been interested in this faction, this book does a fantastic job of getting you all sort of tooled up and ready to play with the Skaven. There we go. It talks about all the different clans, the Blight City, how the Norhalls work, which is their terrain feature, but gets them around in the Mortal Realms. Lovely maps. The beginnings of the Skaven. Again, talking more about the clans here. Then it starts talking about your different units. So you've got your Greyseers. Thankwall gets their part in this as well. All your different Vermin Lords. Then it goes through each of the clans and talks about the units within those. So with Skyer, we've got Pestilens, which is your Nurgle Skaven. Verminus, which I call your Claw Lords and your Storm Vermin. Mulder, which is all like your horrifically mutated rats. Eshin, which are your assassins. Then we're greeted with some lovely painted models. These pages are always really cool to check out. Gives you an idea on your own paint schemes and how you'll paint yours. I've got one of these to paint yet. It's going to take me a while, I believe. So yeah, lots of pages dedicated to painted models. You've then got a painting guide, which teaches you some of the basics of painting your Skaven. What I will say is these pages were in the previous book, so there's no change here, aside from we now have a tutorial on dark blue armor. But I think they've removed one for different types of banners, which is a shame. But everything else was in the previous book, so a bit of a copy and paste there. Right, now we're going to start slowing down and looking at the army rules. This is probably what you're all checking this video out for. So in this page, it's talking you through what you're going to get in the next few pages. So all your different spell laws, your battalions, your grand strategies, your battle tactics, and of course, your war scrolls. But before we get stuck into that, let's check out the allegiance abilities. So the 3 key ones, which are not clan specific, so as long as you're running a Skaven army, you're going to get all 3 of these. They've all been revealed on Warcom, so I won't talk much about them. You've got Lead from the Back, which is to protect your heroes. Scurry Away, sort of same kind of thing. Your heroes can fall back instead of attacking. And then the most interesting of them, Strength in Numbers. So this adds an inch to the range of your melee weapons for every 10 models. So it really helps your big hordes of rats to get lots of attacks in. So you might only be hitting on 5s or 4s with, you know, likely no rend, but you're going to be getting lots and lots of attacks. The more dice you roll, the more chances there are that you're going to hit, you're going to wound, and that your opponent is going to fail those saves. So that is a really strong buff for this army. So then we have our clan battle traits. So the way these work is you don't have to build an army specifically based around one of the clans. Instead, these activate as long as you've got one of the heroes from that clan. So for example, for the master clan abilities here, you would need to have a Greyseer or Thankful. They will get the skilled manipulators, which has been on Warcom as well. This basically allows you to pass off wounds from your Greyseers onto nearby Skaven rats. Although this deals mortal wounds to your clan rats, etc., it does allow you to try and keep your hero alive. What we also have in a few of these battle traits is like a second part, which are only activated if you have 3 or more of those models from that particular clan. So for this one, it's always 3 claw steps ahead. You can use this ability if you include 3 or more master clan heroes in your starting army. After you pick a friendly Skaven unit to be your first unit to run in a phase and make a run roll for that unit, you can use that run roll in place of any other run rolls you make for friendly Skaven units until the end of that phase. So basically, if you roll a 5 on your first unit that you wish to run with, then you could run with other Skaven units in your army and automatically run 5 instead of having to roll for each of those units differently. Keeps them all at the same speed. Also, after you pick a friendly Skaven unit to be your first unit to attempt a charge, again, you can use that same charge roll. So same thing as the running. And then after you pick a friendly Skaven unit to be your first unit to fight and make any piling moves, you can make piling moves for each friendly Skaven unit on the battlefield that is within 3 inches of enemy units. So quite a strong ability there. You do need to have 3 of the Master Clan heroes. However, not just with this one, but with a couple of the other ones, there are ways to get around this. So, for example, we'll get to his war scroll a little bit later on, but the Vermin Lord Warpseer counts as 2 Master Clan heroes instead of 1. So, with him and maybe a Greyseer, you've got your 3 Greyseer heroes to activate that second ability. We then move on to Clans Molder. So, this prize creations chart was originally published in Broken Realms Kragnos. It's back again. So as long as you've got at least one help, well, if you've got 1 Hell Pit Abomination, you can give it one of these abilities from this chart. So I think for me, the strongest one is probably the Toughened Sinews, which gives your Hell Pit a wounds characteristic of 16 and increases his save to a 4+. But you have got some other options here, such as you can reroll the dice when you use this unit's Warpstone Sparks ability, or you can re-roll the dice when you use this unit's Too Horrible to Die ability. So there are different buffs there. If you happen to have 3 Master Molders in your starting army, then you can actually get to put one of these on all of your Hell Pits. So say if you've got an army with 3 of them, the only way to get an ability on all 3 would be to have 3 Master Molder models within your army list. So quite a straightforward one, that one. Clan Eshin is next. So again, you just need to have, say, a Death Master or something like that in your army. At the start of the first battle round, after determining who has the first turn, but before the first turn begins, you can pick 1 enemy hero on the battlefield. You are adding 1 to the hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by that friendly Clan Eshin units that target that hero. So, great on your Death Master to make sure he kills something. Obviously, your opponent's going to know which character you're looking to assassinate because you just picked him at the beginning of the game. But it gives them something to think about. And you may just play mind games and not actually go for that character, but your opponent doesn't know that. Should you include 3 or more Clan Eshin models, Eshin heroes, in your starting army, then you can add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for all melee weapons against all enemy heroes. So not just the one that you selected at the beginning of the game, all heroes, which is a very strong ability. Clans Verminous have the Mighty Warlords. What this basically allows you to do is, so you can give your Claw Lord a command trait, but with this ability, it gives you an extra heroic action, which allows your Claw Lord to use one of the command traits for that turn, which is pretty cool. If you include 3 or more Claw Lords in your starting army, you can carry out this heroic action with each friendly Claw Lords instead of just one. So if you're running multiple Claw Lords, that's obviously pretty cool. Clan Skyer is always a popular one. This has not really changed, so you still get your Warpstone Sparks, which generate in the same way at the beginning of the battle. The only thing that's changed ability-wise is previously in the combat phase, you could reroll all your hit rolls and I believe all your wound rolls on your Clan Skyer hero. Now it just adds 1 to hit and wound. To be honest, I don't think that was a very popular one anyway. It was more about the sort of shooting and the hero phase ability that people went for, but it's there if your poor Sky hero does get into combat. At least he's got that to fall back on, should he wish. Clan Pestilence finishes off. The Great Plagues have returned. They've returned in name and ability, but some of them have undergone a little bit of a buff. The biggest one, from what I've read, is the Bubonic Blight Plague. It's a very cool plague, but in essence, it allows you to choose a unit, do wounds to it, and then it kind of bounces over to other units. But in that initial unit that you pick, instead of dishing out 1d6 mortal wounds, which I believe it was in the previous book, you're now dishing out an initial 2d6 mortal wounds, which has the potential to be amazing. Or if you're like me, you're probably just going to roll 2 1s. But the potential is there to roll a 12. And again, some of your other plagues there have been slightly buffed. We then move on to command traits. So it looks like we've got an awful lot of them compared to other recent Battletomes, but again, we've got all these different clan heroes. So you've actually, in essence, got 3 per hero. I picked out a couple in the review online. For example, for Master Clan, you've got Diabolical Schemer. So if your opponent comes to issue a command and your hero that has this command trait is within 13 inches, then on a 5+, your opponent's command point is spent, but the ability does not work, and you instead get that command point. So it's not something that's going to work all the time. A 5+ is obviously unlikely to go off all that often, but when it does, it could really scupper your opponent. And also an extra command point is quite nice for you then to pull out some shenanigans. So I really liked that when I was going through this book. Clan Eshin have got a couple of good ones. Incredible Ability is the one I highlighted on the website, which gives them the fly keyword and also allows them to Finest Hour a second time during your game. But they've also got Shadow Master, which is an ability that says this general cannot be picked as a target of attacks made with missile weapons whilst they're within 1 inch of a terrain feature, which is very, very cool. We then have Clan Pestilence and Skyer. So they've got some pretty good choices as well. Deranged Inventor. You can add 1 to the hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons on a Clan Skyer unit. And Ridden with Pox is a good Pestilence one. At the end of the combat phase, roll a dice if this general is within 3 inches of any enemy units. On a 4+, each enemy unit within 3 inches of the general suffers D3 mortal wounds. Great on something like a Plague Furnace, which is going to be surrounded by enemies. A good way of dishing out some mortal wounds. So yeah, not bad at all. Similar situation for the artifacts. So again, you've got 3 per clan. Looks like there's an awful lot here, but depends on what heroes you're running. Again, quite a few good ones to mention, but my absolute favourite is this one here for the Pestilence. It is called the Blade of Corruption. You give it to a Clan Pestilence hero, you pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, and then if an unmodified wound roll for the attack is a 6, that weapon increases the rend to -3, and more importantly, deals out flat 6 damage. This would be incredible on a Vermin Lord Corruptor. This would be incredible on a Vermin Lord Corruptor, which is exactly what I'm planning on doing at some stage, because that is a really cool relic. Couple returning here for your assassins. Farskitted Cloak gives you a once per battle teleport. All the normal rules apply. Your Gnaw Bomb is back, which allows you to change a terrain feature for a turn into a Gnaw Hole, which is very, very cool. The last one I'll focus on for artifacts is the Brass Orb for a Clan Sky hero. It's basically like a grenade returning from the old book, which has the ability to delete a unit. However, in this current book, in this new book, that unit at the end of the turn can come back, but it has to come back in the opponent's starting territory, and it has to be 9 inches away from your model. So maybe you want to use your Brass Orb a little bit later on in the game when you've put a lot more pressure on the opponent's territory, so they haven't got much space to then bring that unit down. It's only one use only, and there's a chance it does absolutely nothing, but there is a chance it could do something, and that is very much the Skaven way. So that's all very cool. We then come to our spell laws and prayer scriptures. As with all Battletomes, these have been scaled right down. We've got 3 laws, 3 Law of Wart Vault, and 3 prayers. Nothing much to write about here. These 2, I believe, are just copied and pasted from the previous book, so no changes to those abilities, and the prayers are very similar as well. I won't go too into this next part, but this was a part that I was quite looking forward to, and that is the Path to Glory rules. So a new mechanic for the Skaven is this master plan. So at the beginning of each of your battles, you declare one of these master plans to try and complete, and should you complete it, you can ignore all your injury rolls and stuff like that in the post-game finish up, which is quite good because your Skaven are probably going to be dropping like flies. Again, looks like there's quite a few of them, but they are sort of clan locked and a couple of unit locks. So, but you do have this Disciples of Disease. This master plan is carried out if 10 or more prayers chanted by friendly pestilence are answered during the battle. Should you complete that, then obviously your Skaven get to recover before the next battle. You've also got unique quests and unique veteran abilities to buff your guys up. We've also got territories. If you're playing territories in your Path to Glory, they sound really fun. And then you've also got heroic upgrades as well. So one idea I was thinking of doing, which it looks like I can do now, is for my Path to Glory, start with a Gracier on foot, and his goal is obviously to get the Screaming Bell. That is possible within these rules. It tells you how many experience points you need to get before you can, you can do that. And then it also gives you a rank on that hero as well. So we have one battle plan in this book called the Tides of Vermin. This looks like a pretty fun one to play. It allows your Skaven to start off the board in the Gnaw Holes, and in the first battle round, the defender cannot, or they can issue out commands, but it costs them twice as much. So yeah, really fun looking battle plan. We've then got the War Scroll Battalions. I'm not sure how many of you actually still use these for open play now. But here they are anyway. They look like they haven't changed at all the same as the previous book. What is brand new though is the match play rules. So you can choose, instead of from your General's Handbook, you can choose from one of these 5 to do instead. They seem quite hard to get, but they are here if you wanted to give them a go. You also get 4 exclusive battle tactics, as well as the battle tactics in General's Handbook. These are much more achievable, still a little bit tricky, but much more achievable to score those points. So now we move on to the War Scrolls themselves. Now, a bit of a spoiler alert, there are not many changes here. This is very much a book that hasn't had any major new mechanics added. It's had quite a few subtle +1 to hit, +1 to wounds, and different abilities. And there's quite a few command abilities, actually, that can increase your hit rolls as well. So, yeah, there's obviously we'll go through each of these pages, but there's not all that many that have really massively changed. Starting with Thanquol himself. So now we're moving on to Screech, the Vermin King himself. He's had quite a number of buffs, mainly towards his weapons, which have now got more rend and more flat damaged. The Plague Reaper, for example, was pretty rubbish in last edition. You now get lots of attacks with -1, and it's flat 2 damage instead of D3. So he's looking pretty good. He still has his spell in which you can summon a unit of clan rats as well when you destroy some of your enemy units, which is very cool. We then move on to the other Vermin Lords. So we've got the Deceiver here with some more buffs. I think all the Vermin Lords have had at least little subtle buffs, including this one, which gives them an extra wound. So they've now got 13 wounds apiece, apart from, was it the... Oh no, Fanquil's still got 14, but your Vermin King's got 13, and your other Vermin Lords have all got 13 as well, which is obviously Skaven's number, which is pretty cool. I don't think many of his abilities have really changed on this guy. The Corruptor, however, has had some pretty interesting buffs. So his Plague Reapers previously had no rend, and they were D3 damage. They now have gone up to -2 rend, and they're flat 2 damage. I much prefer sort of damage that is instead of being D3, it's actually a set figure. That's much better, especially if you combine that with that relic that we spoke about earlier, and the Blade of Corruption, I think it was called, because he's also still got the Plague Master rule. Is it the Plague Master rule? No, the Plague Reaper rule here. If an unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a Plague Reaper is 6, then it causes a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. So that's a very similar rule to the last book. However, with the last book, I think if you got a 6 to hit, it just did a mortal wound and the attack sequence ended. It doesn't now. It carries on, but you have also done that mortal wound as well, which is very cool. He has his own command ability, which gives a pestilence unit +1 to hit and wound, which there's nothing stopping him from doing that on himself. And he now gets 2d6 attacks with those said Reapers. That's probably the only maybe slight downside. It previously was a flat figure of 10. 2d6 could mean you get 12 attacks with this guy, but then you could also only get 2 attacks with him. So yeah, it's I kind of wish that had stayed at 10, but never mind. The rest of him has been really buffed, and I'm really pleased. He's actually almost alone tempted me to have like a Pestilence Force as a separate Skaven army. That'd be really cool. Warbringer again has had some subtle buffs. The Warps here has lost his Battleshock immunity command ability. Instead, all Skaven within 13 inches, a bravery characteristic of 10. At the moment, from obviously I've read this book kind of cover to cover, I cannot find anything else that helps you with Battleshock. So if you're worried about Battleshock, you'll need to take this guy for at least buffing your Skaven up to leadership 10. All your kind of immunities and stuff, they've all gone, which is a shame when you're running Horde armies. But yeah, that's pretty powerful. So it may be worth taking him. We've got the Greyseer on Screaming Bell, same war scroll as our as the one that was in Echoes of Doom, which we have got a review of on the website. We've got the Greyseer on foot. All these guys, they seem to have stayed pretty much the same. I have noticed the Warlock Bombardier has changed a little bit. His Doom Rocket's a bit more reliable. It's now D3 attacks instead of 1, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, -1 rend, and flat 3 damage. If you do decide to buff up your Doom Rocket, and then you can give him D6 attacks rather than D3. But if any of those attacks roll a 1, then you do unfortunately take D3 mortal wounds. So a slightly better weapon. On average, you know, you probably take the 3 damage rather than D6. So that's cool. We then have the Storm Fiends. They haven't really changed. I haven't really noticed anything worth talking about there, aside from the Rattling Cannons now hit on a 3 instead of a 4. Warp Lightning Cannon exactly the same. Acolytes are the same. We've got some new weapons here. They've had some slight ability changes and buffs. The Rattling Gun, for example, I think is a bit more reliable now, which is good. The Doom Wheel has pretty much stayed exactly the same. Same with these guys. The Plague Claws had a bit of a buff though. So if you fancy some artillery, then that's the unit to go for. Plague Monks have had a little bit of a change, but they're still pretty horrifying. I have noticed their Standard Bearer, they do have 2 on the sprue, but there's only 1 of them that gets mentioned in this book. Still want to give them as many attacks as possible to do some crazy damage. You've got your Plague Priest there on the Furnace. Your Claw Lords had a bit of a buff there. You've got your Screech from the original Underworlds. His warband's in here. Clan Rats and Storm Vermin are the same as from Echoes of Doom again. Packmasters, these guys have had a buff at the start of the movement phase. You can pick a friendly Clans Molder Pact unit wholly within 13 inches until your next movement phase. You can add free to the run and charge rolls for that unit. So those little rats are going straight into combat. So that's quite cool. Your Hellpit Abomination has had a little bit of a buff again. He's still an absolute powerhouse. I can imagine that a Molder army, if you just strictly went Molder, would be a little bit boring, but it would mean, you know, you could get away with taking a few more of these guys stomping around the battlefield. We then have some Rat Ogres and Rat Swarms, Giant Rats, your Deathmaster, which again is the same from Echoes of Doom. You've got your new Warband from Warhammer Underworlds. And we've got our Endless Spells left. So you've got the Vermintide, that's still the same, I believe, as is the Warp Lightning Cannon. The Bell of Doom has had some slight work done to it. As has the Gnaw-Hole. You no longer have to have a hero next to the Gnaw-Hole to teleport one of your Skaven units through it, which I think is a really big deal. Really happy with that, because you're not always going to want to babysit a Gnaw-Hole with a hero. And then finally, we have all of your pitch battle profiles. So all your points are in here. Importantly, so I mentioned a while ago that strength in numbers is probably one of the best sort of overall big buffs for the army. The second one has to be how you can now create your army. So previously, if you wanted to take lots of Storm Fiends, you wanted to get Storm Fiends as battle line, there was no way of doing it unless you went pure Clan Skyra. Now, so long as you have one hero from that clan, you can take a unit from that clan. So if we take, for example, Clan Skyra, if you take Clan Sky hero, then instantly your Storm Fiends or your one Storm Fiend unit can become scoring, which is very handy in a pinch. And there we go, the finishing points there. And again, allies to the Skaven are Maggotkin of Nurgle, but only if your general is the Pestilent hero. And that brings us to the end of this review. So it's a mixed bag. I really like the Skaven. I wish we had some more new stuff in here. There is a lot of stuff that's been tweaked. I think the thing with this book is the stuff that they've tweaked, I think, will make the book a lot more competitive and even more fun to play with. But I would have liked to have instead seen them add maybe some extra mechanics, maybe some completely brand new battle traits. As it is, a lot in this book has been copied and pasted over from the previous one, maybe just tweaked a slight bit. So it could have been better. I still enjoyed reading it, but it was, I didn't reach that excitement level of when I was like counting down the days to this. But I definitely cannot wait to give it a go and see how the Skaven perform and see if I'm completely overlooking the buffs that they've had. Maybe they're an absolute monster in army now, and I just don't have the imagination to realise that just yet. But I look forward to having a game with them soon and seeing how these rules pan out, especially that strength in numbers as well. That's a very cool ability. So that brings us to the end of this video. As I mentioned during the course of the video, Jay has a written review for Sylvaneth that you can check out, as well as my written review for Skaven. And we've got some very cool videos also go online this morning, including one for the latest General's Handbook. So make sure you check those out. There's plenty to keep you entertained this weekend over on our channel. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this quick flick through the Battletome Skaven. As I mentioned, do check out the link below for a bit more of a timed kind of written review of the book where I've picked out a few different things that you may be interested in. So yeah, give that a read. Thank you for watching this video. I do hope to have a brand new book or kit to show you sometime very soon. But until then, have a great time hobbying, and I'll speak to you all again very soon. Bye.